Feels good to be back in my closet. It's been a while. Welcome back to a totally self-serving video that is just an excuse for me to geek over Riley Sager books for a little while. So, coping, am I right? My Riley Sager love affair started in November when I asked on Instagram if I should read Lock Every Door or If You See Her by Anya Alborn. Unanimously, Lock Every Door won, and I dove in. After Lock Every Door was over, I felt book hangover. What would I read next? What would live up to that story? I did a little research and found that Riley Sager had 3 other books, and I devoured those just as fast. Each book was better than Drug. I was just on a wild ride with guaranteed twists. Of course, I'd try to solve every mystery as the book goes, but every time I got a twist that sent dopamine to my poor, sad, mentally ill brain. And then, all of a sudden, it was over. The only thing I could do was pre-order his next book, Survive the Night, and wait. I had binged all 4 books in a month, and now there was nothing that could live up to that expectation. And honestly, even though, of course, I've read like 18 books since then, nothing has done it for me the way those 4 books did. They're so satisfying and surprising. It never felt cliche or let me down, so today I decided I wanted to take a closer look at the similarities in Riley Sager's books and what makes his twists so satisfying. One of the ways Sager tells his stories is in past versus present. I don't know if that is the technical term, but I barely graduated high school, and this is what makes the most sense to me. And it's my damn video, so ha. In Final Girls, you relive the massacre at Pine Cottage with Quincy, the main character, in one chapter, while in the next you go through her current life struggles and the mystery unfolding in the present. This is the same with The Last Time I Lied, where every other chapter you relive the year at camp that ended with 3 girls going missing, while the true story unfolds in the present when Emma returns to Camp Nightingale for its reopening as an adult. Home Before Dark is a little different because rather than reliving the past through the main character, every other chapter is a chapter from the main character's father's book. I know that sounds complicated. That was a complicated sentence. I'm sorry. So the past is told from his point of view in the book that he wrote about the family's time at Bainbury Hall. And the present is Maggie returning to Bainbury Hall for the first time since she was a child to restore the house to sell. Lock Every Door is also told in a past versus present way, except the present is the secondary chapters because it takes place just a few days in the future with Jules mysteriously in the hospital. And the primary chapters are her solving the mystery of Bartholomew and its missing sitters. The cool thing about Lock Every Door is because the present is just a few days in the future, eventually the 2 timelines converge at the end before the final. I've seen this past versus present in a few books, more recently in The Sundown Motel and The Forest. Also in TV with shows like Sharp Objects and 13 Reasons Why, which, now that I think about it, are both based on books. The past always has some important information to help you in the present. You just have to be willing to look at it. Originally, I was going to call this part Unreliable Narrators, but that's not quite what they are. The unreliable narrator doesn't tell you the story correctly. They tell their story and the story of the people around them from their own point of view, which can be self-serving. It's like having an argument and you think you're right, so when you tell your friend, you tell your side first, and maybe make the other side look worse, or don't present their argument fairly. Some examples of popular unreliable narrators include Bella Swan from Twilight, Rue from Euphoria, and the disgusting Humbert from Lolita. But that's not what these characters are. They aren't quite unreliable, they're more somewhat untrustworthy. Emma and Quincy are both untrustworthy in the same way. In The Last Time I Lied and Final Girls, both girls keep a secret. They are tormented by it. It causes them guilt, and they mention this. There's something they aren't telling you, something they both feel guilty about, and they both act as if maybe they had more to do with the tragic events than they lead on. And both lied to the cops about it. These secrets aren't revealed to the end. For Emma, it's the night the girls went missing. She locked them out of the cabin. And she's guilty because, until the end, it makes it seem like her fault. They didn't have the safety of the cabin to return to. So those 3 teen girls were sitting ducks. For Quincy, it's kinda a lot of secrets. She doesn't remember the night at Pine Cottage, so a lot of the secrets and details are kept from her as well, by her own brain. The big one, though, is she slept with Joe, the supposed killer, that night and lost her virginity to him. And when she's asked by the cops why she was the only one who survived, she says she doesn't know. But she suspects it's because they slept together. Maggie is only somewhat unreliable / untrustworthy, because she doesn't remember the ghostly events of her family's time at Bainbury Hall. She did read her father's book, but we learn Ewan himself might not be all that reliable. This one goes for all 4 books. Riley leads you and the character one way, then the twist hits. Unlock every door, Riley has Jules thinking the Golden Chalice is a satanic group of rich people who sacrifice sitters 1 minute, and then somehow a worse truth is coming at you the next. Home Before Dark gave me chills when for just a second I thought maybe the book was a cover-up for Ewan killing Petra, and maybe he had an inappropriate relationship with her. A twist that was sadly believable since tragic shit like that happens in the real world. I never wanted that for Ewan. In The Last Time I Lied, Emma thinks she may have uncovered a sinister conspiracy involving an asylum and the family that owns Camp Nightingale, and Vivian and the other girls were taken out because they knew too much. Final Girls is a little different, as the misdirection is there from the beginning, making you believe the massacre at Pine Cottage is a cut and dry, open and closed case. As well as it kind of has you going for a second that Lisa wasn't murdered. And I'm guessing that's the point, like it hypes you up for the big reveal, which makes the big, little, and every twist in between so much more shocking. As I've said an annoying amount of times, the twists are what hit me with these books. Swear to God, a good mystery and a good twist is better than drugs. I'd like to acknowledge the whole book is good. Despite having similarities between the books, all of the stories and characters are unique enough you don't feel like you're reading the same shit every time. It doesn't ever feel redundant, especially if you hyperfixate and read all 4 books in less than 30 days. So, the twists. I'm going to be ranking the twists, but before I do, I want to talk about each one because welcome to my self-serving hyperfixation video. Lock every door. The sitters aren't being murdered by a satanic cult. I will not have any satanic slander on my channel. But instead, the rich people in the building are kidnapping them and harvesting their organs to keep themselves alive just a little longer. They pick sitters like Jules who don't have family or a lot of friends, who are desperate for money. And honestly, RIP that the hot doctor was evil, but I have never been more proud of a book character than Jules, taking that bitch out, burning that ish down, and taking the dog. Final Girls. We learn it wasn't Joe. Poor Joe was a mentally ill, innocent person, and just another victim in the massacre. It was Coop. I was so caught off guard by this and was so ridiculously disappointed. Not in the book, obviously, but in Coop, and frankly, what he represents on a whole. I could go on a whole rant that I'm sure I will one day. I will word vomit all over this channel about the violence that women face in this country, and frankly in other countries, and it makes my blood boil. And Coop and his mindset is part of the problem. It is toxic masculinity and sociopathy at its finest. I'm not going to go over why everything I'm about to say is wrong. I expect you to know why it's wrong. But if for some reason you have a problem, go ahead and comment. I would be happy to leave a rant under your comment. Coop says things like after he lost his virginity, he thought about killing the girl because she was such a huge slut. And he was disgusted by her. He strangled a girl who was hitchhiking, who gave him a blowjob because what a slut. He even mentions that he joined the military, hoping if he killed for the country, it would help. Which is just, oh God. Oh, don't even get me started. Oh, don't even get me started. It is so hard to just like focus on the books with with this particular character because he represents real people, real men in this country who do shit like this. I can truly only imagine what kind of shit he got into when he was in the military. One thing I do really like about Riley's books is the realism. There is not a character in any of his books that aren't totally real. There's not a situation that hasn't totally happened. That's what works about the quote-unquote dead girl trope, because being a woman is terrifying, and being a young woman, sometimes it doesn't feel like if I get kidnapped, if I get murdered, if I get attacked, it feels like when. And for some reason, men seem to think that girls who are sexual deserve to die while also begging and harassing us for nudes and sex at every chance they get. Anyway, I said I wouldn't rant, so I'll leave it at that. The Last Time I Lied. So, I like to say The Last Time I Lied has 2 twist endings. Because at the end of each book, Riley gives a little wrap-up. A little happy ending type of thing. I love this because I'm not only mentally disabled, I am mentally ill, and there's nothing more a bitch with anxiety likes than an ending that is satisfying and loose ends that are tied up. The first ending is that no one murdered the girls. They accidentally drowned while trying to explore the sunken asylum. Chet was the one taunting Emma all summer, and not because he was the murderer or because he was covering up for his brother, but it was his revenge for Emma having accused Theo of murdering the girls 15 years ago or whatever. You know what? Was the revenge good? No. Should we try to kill people out of revenge? No. Do I understand why you would be angry? Yes, if someone thought my sister was a murderer. I would want revenge. If that ruined her, I would want revenge. I love my sister. She drives me crazy, but I love that bitch, and I would do anything for her. This ending to me was a good twist, because it wasn't one I was expecting. You are to assume the whole book something sinister happened to the girls, because that's sadly what happens when 3 15 to 16-year-old girls go missing. It's not usually just for funsies. So that is the ending I accepted when I went into Riley Sager's wrap-up mode. But then, I'm so fucking excited to talk about this. This is the best twist ending ever of a book, I swear to God. That tweet wasn't a joke. If I want to feel something, I reread the last few pages of this fucking book. I also do listen to Taylor Swift's Riley Sager to feel something. So then, Emma gets a call from the detective, whose name I honestly don't care to remember. He confirms that the 2 girls were in fact Allison and Natalie, but none of the bones matched Vivian. Natalie and Allison had head wounds, had chains and bricks attached to them. Emma has a sudden realization that the night Vivian asked to let them back into the cabin, she said, "Let me back into the cabin, not us." You think that's it, right? Maybe Vivian killed the girls, which is a big enough fucking twist to come at the very end. But, oh no, there's more! Emma has an art gallery opening. She's just doing her thing. And then fucking Vivian shows up and wants to play one last game of 2 truths and a lie, in which Vivian admits in the game that she found the asylum, she planted evidence, and she drowned Allison and Natalie. And why? Well, for revenge, of course. Natalie and Allison were there the day of Vivian's sister's death. They dared her to go onto the ice, and when she fell in, they did nothing as they drowned. And Vivian tested them that summer, pretending to drown, and they also didn't get up to help her. That is when she decided to kill them. I gotta take a breath. Home Before Dark. This one didn't get me as hard.
I am editing, I'm recording this on my phone real quick. I didn't mean get me hard in a sexual way. These books do not, they turn me on a little bit with how good they're, but I'm kidding. It was not meant to sound sexual, but it did sound kind of sexual. I just meant it didn't hit me as hard as The Last Time I Lied, which was like a slap in the face. It was like, boom, here's the twist. And that's all I meant. Thank you, I'm sorry.
But was still a good enough twist. I was like, shit, that makes sense. Because sometimes when you can see a twist getting set up, you're like, fuck this. Or, for example, like the twist at the end of The Forest, where it just wasn't as creepy or good as they led it up to be. The twist comes down to Petra. The reveal is that Martha would sneak into Maggie's room through the back door in the wardrobe, I believe, to watch Maggie sleep. And Maggie would see her and call her Mrs. Pennyface because the moon would reflect off of Martha's glasses. The night Petra went missing, Petra caught Martha, and Martha accidentally killed Petra. And in the present day, Martha decides to kill Maggie to cover up her past after they find Petra's body. She tried to push Maggie down the stairs, but then the housekeeper, Elsa, steps in and pushes Martha down the stairs. And Maggie swears she sees Petra's ghost push Martha. The end is still great, but it's not as huge of a twist as others. Although I'm on the side of Maggie, I would like to think that Petra pushed Martha because Petra deserves it. Here is my definitive ranking of the 4 Riley Sager books we have so far. I think it is important to note that I do love all of them. Yeah. I think after hearing me talk about them, you would understand how much I actually do feel for these books. So there we go. The big Riley Sager video. And low-key, my comeback video? Life is freaking crazy for me right now, and I am moving in about a month, 2 months, depending on, apartments and jobs and whatever. And if you watched my channel before, you might know I have autism and ADHD, so huge life changes like this are very, very hard for me and feel anxious all day, almost every day right now. But I am planning on making more videos because I really do like it, and I like talking about things I care about, and that's kind of what this channel is now. If you want to keep up with every book I am reading, because even though I'm not technically a booktuber anymore because I talk about other stuff, if you want to keep up with every book I am reading, I post every book on my Instagram. I also talk about other bookish things on there. I'll also leave the link to my Every Book I Read in 2020 video in the description. I uploaded it, had to re-upload it, and then decided to unlist it. If you want to hear me talk a little bit about every book that I read in 2020, you can go there. Or you can just go look on my Instagram and just tap through my story of every book I read in 2020. It's on my page. Thank you so much for watching. This was such an amazing video to make. Thank you for letting me geek out. I am Clever Hans, and I guess that's it.